Hello and welcome to Chuck's Culture Channel, your place for lively conversation on the lively arts in St. Louis and beyond. My guest in this episode is composer and artist Anna Clyne. Her new multimedia work, Pallet, has its world premiere February 14th and 15th with Stephane Deneve and the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. Pallet is in 7 5-minute movements. Each movement is based on a different color whose first letters collectively spell the title of the work. Clyne has created paintings to go with each color, and we'll see those during the interview. Pallet also uses a musical technique developed by Clyne and Jody Elff, called the augmented orchestra. In the augmented orchestra, some instruments are electronically transformed in real time and then integrated into the listening experience live. The whole thing happens at the auditorium of the Teal Center behind me right now. Okay, so let's talk about the piece that you're doing with Stephane Deneve and the St. Louis Symphony in February, Pallet. What was the inspiration for that?
Well, the inspiration for Pallet is the form of it. It's a concerto for augmented orchestra. So it's a piece that explores soloists from within the orchestra, both as individual musicians and also as sections as a collective voice within the orchestra. But it's also a piece that explores the symbiosis between art and music and different elements that translate between both the visual art and music, such as texture, light and dark, form, all these different elements that really are vital elements of both art and music. And actually, as part of the process, I've been creating paintings. So Palette is in 7 5-minute movements, and each of the movements is exploring a different hue, which collectively the first letters spell the word palette. So we have plum, amber, lava, ebony, teal, tangerine, and emerald. So for each of those movements, I've also created a massive canvas of 30 inches by 30 inches and explored those colors. So I'm sort of going back and forth between the visual and the music. And then, as I mentioned, it's also a concerto for the augmented orchestra. So as part of this enhancement of the orchestral sound world, I'm collaborating with sound designer Jody Elff to literally process elements from the orchestra in real time to expand the sonic capabilities of the acoustic orchestra.
So I want to get back to more about the acoustic orchestra in just a minute. What I would first like to do is show folks what those canvases look like, since you created both the canvases and the music. So we're going to share the screen here for just a minute. So here we have, this is from a website which I can't show anybody the URL for, but these are the pictures, and let's zoom in on them. There's Plum. Can you see these at your end?
I can, yes.
Very good. So this is Amber.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this one, next one's really evocative, I think. That's lava. And we saw some lava in Iceland, and that's very evocative of lava. And let's see, what's this one again?
Ebony.
Ebony, right. And I see I'm forgetting the names now. Wait a minute.
Oh, it's Teal.
Teal, call them out. Tangerine?
Yes.
Yes.
And this is Emerald.
And Emerald. Okay. So that'll give everybody an idea of the feel, the visual feel of each movement. You know, it's interesting. I think a lot of people probably do not assume visual artist and composer as being part of the same personality, but in fact, there have been other famous composers that have been visual artists. I mean, the first two that come to mind for me are Arnold Schoenberg and George Gershwin, but there have been others, as I recall. How did that come about? How did you end up with a foot in both worlds?
Well, I've always loved making things, since a child, be it sculpture, pottery, art, music, baking, all of these creative elements, a way to express myself. And it just has seemed like a very organic creative life to keep all these different facets going, and one can inspire the other. You can take a break from music to go to a gallery and find inspiration there, or go to a concert, find inspiration there. So it's just something that I've loved, and it's a natural extension of my previous orchestral work. So I have 2 earlier works that explore this relationship between music and art. One is a piece called Abstractions, which is a piece from 2016, and it responds to 5 different pieces of contemporary art.
Ah.
So in that, I'm responding to 5 very different images too. I also wrote a piece called Color Field, which responds to a massive painting by the American artist Mark Rothko, exploring light and texture. And I also incorporated visual art into the process of a piece like Night Ferry, which is a piece from earlier on, from 2012, which explores turbulence of nature and turbulence of the mind. And for that piece, my first creative impulse was not sound, but an image of a dark, turbulent wave. So for that piece, I started to paint that and then translate that into music. So the visual aspect of music has been really central to my music for a long time, but this is the first time that I'm really exploring my own creative voice through the artistic element.
Okay. And you've done very well with this, I must say. I see your name everywhere in concert programs. The St. Louis Symphony, of course, has performed a number of your works over the years. And it seems to me that, I'm going to get a little historical here, but it seems to me that there's some sort of odd karmic balance going on here. For centuries, women could not get their works heard. Women who would be composers like, Nana Mozart or Fanny Mendelssohn were stifled in their creative process. And now suddenly I'm seeing at least a lot of younger women composers all over the place. It's not just you, but Natalie José and so many other of these composers who are suddenly popping up everywhere. I don't know why that is, but I wondered if you had any thoughts about that. If you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. I mean, we're going through sort of a real reinvigoration of the culture of orchestral and classical music. As you said, there's many voices throughout centuries that have not been fully represented, that have not had the opportunities that their work really merited. And I think at the moment, we're really coming together to really celebrate women's voices, to celebrate voices of people from a diverse range of backgrounds. And I think it's really essential for the art form. And it's wonderful to be seeing, especially this younger generation of women composers really having a voice. And I personally am very grateful because 2 of my main mentors as an emerging composer, as a student, were women and strong women. I studied at Edinburgh University with the Georgian composer Marina Adamia. And at Manhattan School of Music, I studied with Julia Wolf. So it felt very natural for me to be a woman and a composer. And in fact, especially as a young person, I never really thought of my gender. I was just a composer, not a female composer. But I recognize that myself and my colleagues, it's very important. In fact, it's essential that we do our best to create opportunities to nurture this next generation of composers from all different backgrounds and of different genders. So yeah, it's a really exciting time for contemporary classical music.
Yeah. And you're a great representative of the trend. I think I have really loved everything of yours that I've heard over the years. So
Thank you.
big fan. Now let's talk about this augmented orchestra project, because I think this is fascinating. So this involves actually having the sound of acoustic instruments transformed electronically and then played simultaneously with the acoustic instruments. Is that a safe statement of how it works?
Yeah, it's a very organic extension of the orchestra. So sometimes it helps to think of what it's not. It's not amplification, it's not looping, it's not samples.
Right.
It's happening live in real time. So an example is Pallet, which is actually the 3rd piece that implements the augmented orchestra technology. And in Pallet, we have 8 microphones within the orchestra on 8 different instruments. So we have a few woodwinds, a few brass, a few strings, and a percussion. And at very specific moments in the piece, those microphones open and a process is applied to that source, and then it stops. So it's very much part of the orchestration. It's notated incredibly specifically to the 16th note as to when gesture should begin and end. But it's not amplifying the instruments. So for a good example is there's a quite raucous passage in Lava, the most sort of vibrant of the 7 movements. And we wanted to emulate the sound of an organ. So we took the double basses and we pitch shift them down an octave. So you're extending the range of the acoustic orchestra beyond what it can do acoustically. And of course, these technologies are used all the time in pop music. So we're really harnessing existing sonic worlds. But so immediately you are transforming the sound of the double basses. Another example in Pallet is there's this melodic line in the clarinet that at a very specific moment is run through an overdrive, a distortion, sort of crunchy sound that we often associate with an electric guitar, for example. So in that moment, we are transforming the sound of the clarinet to become more like an electric guitar. So it opens up this whole new wealth of sonorities to play with, which is great fun. So yeah, very excited about this.
Let's give everybody a chance to hear what some of that sounds like. I'm going to once again share a website. So here we are, and we have some great examples of what you just talked about here. And I'm going to play a few of them right now. For example, basses before the AO treatment. And now we're going to hear that that change that you talked about, the extension. You can really hear those deep sonorities in there, I think. And vibes, you didn't mention this one, but I think this is fascinating also. And here's the transform vibes. Now, to me, they don't sound that different. What was done with the vibes?
So the vibes actually is having a similar process. Oh, I think I'm hearing myself back. There we go.
Oh.
A similar process to the basses. We're extending the range, so you're hearing subtones which make the vibraphone sound more like a bell, and that's actually a sound that we used in the most recent AO piece, most recently performed AO piece called The Gorgeous Nothings,
Okay.
which sets poetry by Emily Dickinson. And we wanted to create these sort of grand bell-like sounds, which a vibraphone alone doesn't create. But with that harmonic extension, it has a warmer sound. And I see, for example, here we have oboes screeching.
Yes.
That's more of the distortion effect that we spoke about.
Let's hear that. So normal and then transformed. That will definitely get your attention.
Absolutely.
And this is my favorite, the flutes, because they're changed so radically, and I'll just play them. And now diffused. That one to me sounds like the most radical transformation in a way, but it turns them into kind of an ethereal choir, really.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the intention. And of course, imagining those sonorities now tucked within the orchestra, what we really strive for is a very organic and quite subtle blend. So the audience members can't really discern what's the acoustic orchestra and what's this augmentation. So that's the goal. And actually, the samples that we just heard are now on a website that is actually available called theaugmentedorchestra.com. So your listeners and viewers that want to see that can check those out as well.
Oh, okay, good. Because when I got the information, it was embargoed. So in that case, I will put that link in the video information field below so people can find it.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. So are you going to be using the augmented orchestra more in the future, or is this just going to be something folded in with your regular tool belt, or what?
Yeah, some pieces will be for augmented orchestra and some are not. Well, actually, we're currently collaborating. I should also say, this is a collaboration with Jody Elff, who is a fantastic sound designer. He's also
Right.
my husband, so it's very much a family affair, and we're able to develop this work together. And in fact, the augmented orchestra started back in 2017 over a bottle of wine. We were contemplating the technological background that he has, the orchestral background that I have, and how those two technologies, the orchestration is a technology of its own, how we can really bring those two together. But we're currently collaborating on a residency at Oxford University
Ah,
for a new work for string quartet and chamber ensemble called Looking Glass. So we're very excited about that. And then we have some bigger visions for the work that's going to incorporate dance and circus and choir and orchestra. So we're dreaming up projects that really take AO to the next level.
oh, wow. It's kind of reminiscent of the whole Gesamtkunstwerk thing, that Wagner had. Hopefully less ponderous than Wagner was, but yes. That's wonderful. I mean, that's something that kind of integration of the various art forms is something we have not seen a lot of for a while. So that's great. So that's the
Thank you.
direction things are going in the future for you.
Yes, yeah, really expanding and expanding out of the more traditional concert hall as well.
So let's wrap up here then by saying, what kinds of things are you doing that are expanding outside of the concert hall? Just for an example.
Oh, just looking for different spaces, venues where more pop concerts take place. So different organizations and festivals that are utilizing different spaces. We're looking to partner with them as we're moving forward with the augmented orchestra.
Okay. Yeah, we have some of that here in St. Louis too. There's an organization called the Chamber Project that makes a point of going out to different, like they performed in bars and small theaters and places like that. I think that kind of outreach is terrific. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it opens up the music to a wider audience too, which is something we're very mindful of.
Yes, and very important. Anna Clyne, thanks so much for taking some time out of your schedule. I know you must be busy with all these projects going on. So if anyone wants to know what you're doing now, they can just look below at the video description field. I'll have your website and all that fun stuff there. So before I wrap up, any final words?
No, just thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. And we're really thrilled to be partnering with Stephane Deneve and the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. As you mentioned, we've collaborated on several projects over in the past. So we're just thrilled to be partnering with an organization and institution that's bold in taking risks and trying new things. So we're really in this together, and I couldn't imagine a better team for it. So February 14th and 15th, we'll be there in St. Louis for the world premiere of Pallet.
Thank you so much, Anna Clyne. And everybody else, see you next time.